Hello and welcome to the Ministry Moment for Wednesday, April the 1st. No April Fool's joke. This is an opportunity for us to gather here in the middle of Holy Week and to contemplate what it looks like to walk through this very precious and holy week together. I'll say more about that in a few moments, but I want to welcome you to this time for us to get caught up a little bit. With this week to come, we have a lot of things going on here at the church. This last Sunday, we celebrated Palm Sunday, Jesus' triumphant welcome into Jerusalem, in a situation that would shift and change rather rapidly, even as Jesus had told his disciples that it would. We come up to opportunities to gather together for worship into this week to come. We have our Maundy, Thursday worship service that will be at 7 o'clock here in the sanctuary this Thursday evening, April 2nd. We have our Good Friday community worship service. We'll be gathering together with churches across our Newton community for Good Friday worship at noon this coming Friday. Looking forward to that opportunity with all of our brothers and sisters across our community. And then we'll gather on Sunday morning, Easter Day. It is coming and it is soon before us. We'll change our schedule that day, and please take note of these changes, as you might also welcome friends and family to come be a part of our Easter morning together. We'll begin in the historic church at 7 in the morning for sunrise worship that morning. We'll have breakfast afterwards in the Family Life Center and worship here in the sanctuary at 9 in the morning. That's different than our normal time together at 10, but at 9 in the morning. Beyond that, a wonderful opportunity for us to consider all the things in the epistle today. If you get that email, please take a look at all of the different announcements and things coming up, not only now, but down the road. Things like concluding Vacation Bible School, other updates of activities going on with our Young at Heart group, and other things going on in the life of our church. Looking forward to this very important week to come. It's in that regard that I'd like to share with you the ministry moment for today. So I don't know if this would be something like maybe you would recall, but I can remember back when I was in school, one of the hardest things to do was to squeeze in, particularly all the amount of reading that at times was needed, whether it was books that were nonfiction that were providing information, or particularly if we had to read maybe in English class novels or other books that were rather lengthy. It was hard to squeeze all that reading in sometimes. And there was always a temptation that maybe if we were a little short on time, we could just read the beginning of the book, and then if we would fast forward a little bit towards the end, we could somehow or another see how it all ended, and maybe our thinking and process could kind of figure out the story and how we got there. In a way, that's kind of what could happen, but wouldn't necessarily be the best thing. It wasn't really in school in those days, but it could happen, or the thinking could go, well, Holy Week is really, it starts with Palm Sunday, it ends with Easter. Let's get to Easter. Let's go ahead and get to the resurrection. Let's celebrate. But there's something about Holy Week that's really important. It's a little bit like making a sandwich and forgetting to put the ingredients between the bread. If we fast forward Holy Week to Easter and we don't consider the other days in between, we miss the journey that takes Jesus to the cross. It's a significant part of our story because what is Jesus risen from if we do not understand the power of his death and the story of how it unfolded, that in our brokenness, Jesus would have to lay down his life to bear it for himself so that we might be restored and renewed and redeemed. This coming week in Holy Week, as we gather for worship, this is our journey. This is our time to consider the cost of our brokenness and the power of eternal life given through the resurrection. It began, as we shared on Palm Sunday. We shared in the whole Passion story, and in a way, it seems like we might have covered a lot of things, but we're going to walk that path some more. Jesus is welcomed into Jerusalem on that Palm Sunday. There are crowds that are celebrating. Jesus is well known for his healing and his teaching. And it seems like everyone is so delighted and excited, but it does not take long before the influence of the Pharisees and others begin to change the mood. And there is a series of questions and concerns about Jesus, and anger and frustration. Jesus would gather together on what we would call Maundy, Thursday, the Thursday before Good Friday, with his disciples for one last meal. We know that as the Last Supper, sharing with them the bread and the wine, saying, "Do this in remembrance of me. This is my body broken for you. This is my blood shed for you. Do this for the forgiveness of sins." And as we celebrate in communion, we share in that meal again and again, welcoming Christ's presence among us as Jesus instructed us to do and to do often. Beyond that, Jesus will give us a command: love one another as I have loved you. That's a significant calling, and it's not easy, but it is a command that takes and encapsulates all of the commands and reminds us that God is a God of love and mercy who calls us not just to be known to Him through our love of God, but to reflect God's love as we relate and care for one another. We'll, in the midst of that worship that night, share in both communion and this commandment. It's often called Commandment Thursday as well. And we'll close with the stripping of the altar. We'll actually take away all of the different items you might see behind me, the paraments, the cross, so many other things, as we recognize that it would be in that night that Jesus would also be betrayed and turned over to the authorities. On Good Friday, as we gather for worship that day, a community service again, we'll hear the last words of Jesus. Jesus, having been put to death on the cross, found guilty and handed over and there left to die. Jesus could have saved himself, but to do so would have changed our salvation. And so Jesus would give his life. And in that somber, hard service, we understand the cost and the pain that Jesus endured in giving his life for us. We process those things through Holy Saturday into Easter Sunday. On sunrise, we get up in that morning and we come together in worship. And just as the women and the disciples found Jesus' tomb to be empty, there was great curiosity, uncertainty, and there was a lot of wonder about what God was doing and where Jesus was. And could Jesus, in fact, be alive again? That beginning worship takes us to that Easter morning when we find out that, yes, the tomb is indeed empty, and this is not by accident. This is God's claiming, redeeming love for his creation, for you and for me. This is God overcoming death in the grave. Where Jesus died for our forgiveness, God has raised Jesus to new life so that death, the penalty for sin, will no longer separate us from an eternal being with God. And yet, even while we die, we experience the power of redemption, for we are forgiven and made children of God forevermore, beyond this life. Easter morning, such a beautiful celebration, and we'll come together that day, and there will be so much hope and power. How we get to that Easter morning is powerful. I want to encourage you, even if it's not been your practice in the past, to come be a part of Maundy Thursday worship and Good Friday morning worship, or at noon that day. Both of them kind of fill in the story that takes us to the empty tomb. But we can't really, as a people, look at the empty tomb and understand its significance without understanding how we got there and what it means to truly be made forgiven, made redeemed, and granted that joy in God's kingdom to be with God forevermore. I hope what I've done is whet your appetite a little bit so we might prepare for our times together in worship to come this week. Again, Thursday evening at 7, Friday at noon, Sunday morning at 7 in the morning with breakfast to follow, and then worship at 9 for Easter morning. Through the rest of this Holy Week, I wish you a great week to come. I've enjoyed this opportunity to share in these messages with you through this time. This has been our covenant to share in these moments through our Lenten journey, and Lent is soon to come to a close, but Easter is yet soon before us. God's peace be with you.